I'll just share this.
Yes, ma'am. You can share it.
Can you all see the PPTs?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So very
It's
good morning.
visible, ma'am.
Yeah, very good morning to one and all. Now we are just going to add on our knowledge with respect to using LabVIEW for wireless communication experimentation, right? So I think this is 5 days or 6 days long FDP where you are completely knowing about the NI product and the LabVIEW simulation tool. So we had a good opportunity with Dr. Vishweshwaran sir and Jayaprakash sir, I think so. They are very good inputs with respect to utilizing their national instruments equipments for demonstrating communication system based experiments. So generally LabVIEW is used for experimenting many things, but as I am a communication staff, I just want to deliver how we can utilize LabVIEW to do all communication type of experiments. So for as a first set, I have just picked up how to do an OFDM signal modulation, transmission and reception. For that we just know what is the theory behind OFDM, and then we just go ahead how we are going to do it in LabVIEW to see the results, right? So from here, just I just want to give you what is meant by OFDM and why it has become a much of important concepts in today's world compared to the previous generations, right? So OFDM, and the word stands for orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. Orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. Some they call it as multiple access. Multiplexing and multiple access, they work in two different modes. Multiplexing as a modulation term, it will be used in physical layer. Multiple access as a accommodating multiple users, it will be acting in the MAC layer of the computer. Hope all you know the OSI model of the computer communication model, right? Or the TCP/IP model. This model has the lowermost layer as a physical layer, and the next layer will be your MAC layer, and the above layer will be your IP layer, right? So OFDM fits in two layers. One is in your physical layer as OFDM. In MAC layer also it fits, but in the term that is used in the MAC layer is orthogonal frequency division multiple access terms, right? So now what we are going to study here is how OFDM is used to transmit bits in the physical layer. So physical layer experimentation can be done in LabVIEW. Where we are, why this is becoming so important. So whatever we are teaching to our students, we will be teaching with respect to what has been already deployed all over the world. So their basics. So for that, we need to understand why we need to study this OFDM. This slide answers the question that why you need to study OFDM, right? Because OFDM is the modulation concept for the 4G wireless communication system that is called as long-term evolution, LTE. So most of you will be having your mobile phones, right? All your mobile phones. Now the mobile phone is moving to which generation? The present day, your mobile phone is operating in 4G. All your mobile phones are operating in 4G, and within few months we'll be trying to move from 4G to 5G, right? So this 4G modulation is OFDM. This 4G modulation is OFDM, orthogonal frequency division modulation concepts. Through that modulation only, we are receiving the signals in our mobile phones. So to transfer any signal, generally we will be in need of we know how to represent these signals, right? We any signal represented mathematically as x of t equal to a sine of cos, right? Sine omega t plus phi. Phi is your phase. So in that, what we are interested, any signal if you want to communicate, you need amplitude. You need amplitude, right? Then what do you need? You need frequency. Then what do you need? You need time. You need time. Right? Since we have told frequency, we won't talk in terms of phi. We won't talk in terms of phi because integral of phi is f. Phi is nothing but phase. So phase and frequencies are somewhat related. So we won't talk phase separately, but change in phase will also convey some data. But since integral of phase is frequency itself, so this won't be considered as a separate parameter, but these three are considered as a separate parameters. You need amplitude, you need frequency, you need time. The amplitude will be nothing but, the amplitude square will be nothing but your power, right? So this is how the energy is converted in terms of power, frequency, and time. Energy is converted into three modes. One is power, one is frequency, other is time. So we will be utilizing this as better as possible to deliver the maximum data to the receiver end. If any signaling concept is going to consume less power and deliver better data rates, then we call those signaling as better power efficient. Better power efficient. If we are going to transfer the signals with 1 hertz, more number of bits, then we call them as better spectrally efficient. As better they are spectrally efficient. So all modulation concept, they try to address this, whether they are power efficient, whether they are spectrally efficient, right? So these two things are put together in OFDM. In the sense, it is a multi-carrier modulation. This is for single carrier, 1FC. But OFDM is a multi-carrier modulation. It's a multi-carrier modulation concept. This multi-carrier modulation is a popular concept, which is a proven technology of it has been operating very successfully, and it is being utilized in LTE 4G modulation concepts, and it is also being considered as a candidate waveform in 5G cellular communication also, right? Well, even if you take off Wi-Fi communication, IEEE 802.11a also transmits data using OFDM. So this is a very important modulation concept which we expect our students should know about working principle of it, and they should be able to have hands-on experience and see how the signals can be viewed. For that, LabVIEW will be a better tool to view the signals. So from here we'll go I'll just teach the basics of OFDM and then go into the LabVIEW concepts. Now, why we use certain steps to get your OFDM signal. Before going into the steps of how to generate the OFDM signal, I will say why these steps are required. So for that, you need to understand these basics. We know that the channel through which the OFDM signal will be transmitted is a wireless channel. The wireless channel is nothing but it is going to have an impulse response which is spreaded, which is delay spreaded. So this is your h of t. Yes, this is your h of t for your wireless channel. Impulse response of the wireless channel for one impulse. So I have transmitted one impulse, but my impulse is extended over time. So this extended response of the channel is called as delay spread nature of the channel. This extended nature response of the channel is called as delay spread nature of the channel. Because of this delay spread nature of the channel, you have something called as coherence bandwidth in the frequency domain. Coherent bandwidth in your frequency domain. That is range of frequencies for which the channel will behave flat, right? So one range, one set of frequencies from this frequency value to this frequency value, the frequency response of the channel is going to be flat, whereas for this set, there is another set of flat frequencies, right? So once you're going to transmit a frequency of this level and this level, and you can see that these two signals will be differently attenuated. This frequency value will have this much amount of amplitude, whereas this frequency will be having only this much amount of amplitude. So once you transmit such signals whose bandwidth is greater than the coherence bandwidth of the channel, then the signals will be attenuated differently. So this is the characteristics of the wireless channel. So usually what we expect higher data rates. So once you're going to transmit higher data rates, so this is very high data rates. So inside this, we made it little slower. This is your S of F response. S of T, when you look into this as S of T, right? This is your S of T signal, whose bits is the same thing in your time domains, a rectangular pulses. Just to understand few concepts, we have taken it as a rectangular pulses. That is your S of T. When this S of T is transmitted over the impulse response of a channel whose response is like this, what you get as a resultant will be every symbol delay spreaded, and naturally these delay spreaded signals will interfere with the adjacent symbols and create inter-symbol interference. Now, for example, since this response is extended up to the second symbol, if I want to decode this symbol, what will happen? We may not correctly decode this as a right bit. It will cause bit error rates. This will cause bit error rates. So one method to overcome this, you can't transmit high-speed signals. You need to transmit a low-speed signals in order that the response of one bit is not going to interfere with my adjacent bit. So therefore, your high-speed data symbols are converted to low data rate symbols. Once you transfer this low data rate symbols into the channel, then the delay spread nature of the signal will not create inter-symbol interference. Now, whether we'll be satisfied with the low data rates that have been achieved in your mobile communication? No, we want multimedia, we want gaming. The channel should be capable of delivering high-speed data. Then what is the next method? How to achieve it? The channel is so burst. It is behaving so worse, but still we want to achieve better, higher data rates. What we should do? So the only option is go for multi-carrier modulation. The high-speed data is being splitted into parallel streams. High-speed data is split into parallel streams, right? And each stream is transmitted using different frequencies. Green color stands for one frequency, orange for another, blue for another, and this magenta color is for another frequency, represents another frequencies. So therefore, these different frequencies, right, they represent multi-carriers. These multi-carrier signals, once you are going to transmit into the delay dispersive channel, as the symbols are spaced apart, you won't have inter-symbol interference. You won't have inter-symbol interference. So that's the main idea in multi-carrier modulation being utilized for wireless transmission. This multi-carrier modulation, once you are going to apply for wireless transmission, you will be overcoming the delay spread nature of the channel, and hence the channel will behave flat for every data that is being transmitted, and then you get your better bit error rates. So that's the main idea of going in for OFDM. In the OFDM, there is few changes. We are going to convert the high-speed data rate into low-speed data streams by applying serial to parallel converters. The use of serial to parallel converters is that they are definitely converting the frequency selective fading channel to flat fading channels, right? Frequency selective fading channel to flat fading channel. That's the reason you go in for using serial to parallel converters. Once you have done serial to parallel converters, now I just told this is green color is for F1 frequency, one frequency, orange is for another frequency, blue is for another frequency. So that is your multi-carrier modulation. So this is a typical concept of using multi-carrier modulation. So use channel 1 to transmit one set of data rate, channel 2 another, channel 3 like that. So between channel 1 and channel 2 there will be a guard band. Right? There will be guard band in order that there will not be any overlap between the channels. Sorry. There will not be any overlap between the channels. This is what your normal conventional multi-carrier technique is. But to this conventional multi-carrier technique, we are going to add up one more parameter, that is the way the channels are allocated to these parallel streams is that these frequencies are orthogonal to each other. Orthogonality is being imbibed. Once you imbibe the orthogonality into the channels, right? Orthogonality into the channels. What is the concept of orthogonality into the channels is that the channels are spaced in such a way that whenever the other channels are going to zero, only one channel will have its peak at that instant of frequency, right? At that instant of frequency. So channel 1 is having peak when all other channels are gone to zero. Channel 2 is having the peak when all other channels are gone to zero. Channel 3 is having the peak when all other channels are gone to zero. So once you are going to allocate the carrier frequencies in this manner, then you are imbibing the orthogonality between the carriers. Orthogonality between the carriers. So this orthogonal way of allocating the subcarriers will definitely save 50% of bandwidth. Definitely save 50% of bandwidth compared to other conventional multi-carrier modulation systems. So this is one of the great advantage what OFDM gives to the systems, right? Whichever system is going to use OFDM, this is one of the great advantage that system is going to get. 50% of the bandwidth is being saved. So this is orthogonality in terms of frequency domain. Next we can talk, I'll just continue the same and then tell how the frequencies should be in terms of time domain signal, how an orthogonal signal will look like in terms of time domain. So same thing, we are going to define orthogonality in frequency domain. OFDM stands for orthogonal FDM. The carrier centers are put on orthogonal frequencies. Here the orthogonality means the peak of each signal coincides with the zero crossings of the other signals. So if we take up impulse, we take up a pulse in the time domain, its frequency response will be a sync signal, right? If a signal is rectangular in time domain, it is rectangular in time domain, then its Fourier transform will be a sync signal in frequency domain. This has been already proved theoretically and mathematically, right? I may not be drawing to the scale, but still hope you will understand what I'm trying to draw. This is your amplitude, this is your time. So, and rectangular signal in time domain, its Fourier transform, f of t will be, once you transfer it to the Fourier domain, you can get a sync signal. So the axis here is frequency. That's what is plotted here. You can see there is a green color sync signal and a red color sync signal and a blue color sync signal. There are three signals, three datas. So you can see that blue color is going to the peak when all other signals are crossing the zeros. And all other signals, the green, the red has gone to zero at this point. At that point, your blue is taking up a peak value. This is how the frequencies are to be placed. So this is, your red is the main first signal here, which is at F0. Right? When F0 is crossing the zeros, you have another frequency F1, that is your green in color. When F0 and F1 are crossing the zero, you have another frequency F2, that is your blue color. So this is orthogonality in frequency domain. The peak of each signal coincides with zero crossings of other signals. The subcarrier spacings, the F0 to F1, the value of this will be nothing but 1 by Ts, inverse of symbol duration. The inverse of symbol duration, this value is 0 to Ts in time domain. Then the subcarrier spacing will be between this point to this point. Well, the value will be 1 by Ts. This value will be 1 by Ts. So this is about the orthogonality. We are understanding about orthogonality in frequency domain. Next we go ahead. Same thing if you look in the time domain. What is that? What does orthogonality means here? So when we say the signals are orthogonal to each other over one OFDM time interval. Over one OFDM time interval, the signals are to be integer multiples of each other. The signals are to be integer multiples of each other. So for this signal, whatever we have taken up, this is over one time interval. From this point to this point is one symbol duration of an OFDM symbol, right? One OFDM time interval. Between these 2 points, we can see 4 subcarriers. First subcarrier is having only one cycle here. First subcarrier is having only one cycle. Second subcarrier, that is this one, is having 2 cycles. So it starts from this point, so peak, the negative peak, the 0 here, right? Second cycle. And third one is going to have 3 cycles, fourth one is going to have 4 cycles. Is it okay? Same signal, when you view it in time domain, the time domain version of orthogonality is the signal should be in the number of cycles of the signal should be integer multiples of each other. Integer multiples of each other. So first signal is having 1 cycle, second signal is having 2 cycles, third signal is having 3 cycles, and fourth signal is having 4 cycles. So this shows orthogonality in time domain. So such signals are called as orthogonal subcarriers. Now this will be more useful for us to understand, to keep up orthogonality in your signal that is being viewed as output. So we are drawn 4 subcarriers separately, but in reality all the 4 subcarriers will be added up and you'll be seeing only one signal. Only one signal as OFDM signal as the output. So just to give you clarity of orthogonality, the 4 subcarriers are drawn separately for you to make it clear your understanding. So that's the case here, right? Now, with this understanding, we will draw the OFDM transmitter. So we take up input bits. It's a very high-speed data rate bits. So naturally, we need to convert it into serial to parallel. Convert into as many low streams as possible, depending upon the delay spread value of your channel. Depending upon the delay spread value of your channel. Okay. In order that the symbol time is 10 times greater than the delay spread value. Symbol time Ts is at least 10 times greater than your sigma tau. This is some thumb rule. 10 times your sigma tau. Sigma tau is your delay spread. So you need to make that many number of parallel streams such that your TS will be at least 10 times sigma tau, in the sense that signal will undergo flat fading. So how many parallel streams you are going to create? That depends upon the delay spread of your wireless channel. From the delay spread value of the wireless channel, you will see that the TS should be greater than at least 10 times your sigma tau. That many number of parallel channels you will be creating. Then only your signal will undergo flat fading. Otherwise, it will undergo frequency selective fading. So, having converted to parallel streams, to every stream, we are going to give orthogonal frequencies to them, or multiply the bits with frequency cos of 2 pi f1t, second stream cos of 2 pi f2t, third stream cos of 2 pi f3t. What is the relation between f1 to f5? They are integer multiples of each other. Sum up all these things, summing up all these 8 parallel lines, you get one OFDM symbol S of t. Summing up all these 8 parallel signals, you'll get one OFDM signal S of t. This is being transmitted wirelessly. In the wireless channel, your signal is going to get affected by the additive white Gaussian noise, as well as the wireless fading parameters, channel impulse response H of t. Right? These two will act over your S of t and create a received signal R of t. Create a received signal R of t at your receiver antenna. So, how we are going to reset or receive the signal back? So, get your R of t, replicate it p times, to every stream. You are doing coherent demodulation. That is, every line to get back your signals that have been transmitted using frequency f1. You need to correlate with cos of 2 pi f1 of t, then integrate it over one symbol duration. You get your first symbol. Second one, correlate with cos of 2 pi f2t, integrate it for one symbol duration, you get your second symbol. Like that, all the 8 symbols you will get. After getting your 8 symbols, convert it to serial and give us output. So this is how your OFDM block diagram version will be clarified. This is what is your OFDM. So you are taking up inputs, converting the serial inputs to parallel inputs, and then applying the orthogonal subcarriers, transmitting it over the channel, do the reverse at your reverse end to get back your outputs. See a simplified block diagram version of the signal. Now, what we are going to do? Do we have so many local oscillators to create frequency f1, f2, f3, f8 like that? Do we have so many number of local oscillators? So if we need to also maintain the channels here correctly, right? F1 and F2 should be related in such a way that they are orthogonal to each other. So picking up such channels is very difficult. Picking up such local oscillator frequencies and maintaining the local oscillator frequency at a particular level is very, very difficult. So what we are going to do is we are going to take the help of DSP, discrete time signal processing techniques. How we can take the help of DSP. So that the explanation will go on now. Right. In what part of this OFDM signal can be generated using OA or using DSP? For that, this slide will explain how your frequency selective faded signal is becoming flat faded signal. Right. So this is the impulse response of the channel impulse response. You can see the impulse response is varying as well as extended over time, and his frequency response, the Fourier transform of that will be like this. This is a frequency response, is this amount of one range of frequencies which has been attenuated similarly, and this is another range of frequencies which are going to be attenuated similarly. So for this set of frequency time response, this is the frequency response. If I take a data and I'm going to use only one channel and transmit the data. I'm going to use only one channel and transmit this serial data. It is, it's not, it is a single carrier modulation. I'm going to transmit. What will happen is, you can see this is the delayed response of 1 bit, and therefore in the frequency domain, you can see that this is the channel response, whereas this is the transmission channel bandwidth. So transmission channel bandwidth is greater than the coherence bandwidth of the signal, and therefore the signal will undergo frequency selective fading. Signal will undergo frequency selective. So next, I am trying to use two channels. One is red in color, other is blue in color, two set of frequencies. You can see that the red color, somewhat the frequency is being very much close to the bandwidth of the channel, right? And still it is frequency selective fading. Therefore, like this, if I keep on increasing my number of parallel channels, now I can see that everything is being attenuated similarly within the coherence bandwidth of the channel. So this is the advantage of converting your parallel streams, sorry, serial stream to parallel streams and using different frequencies for transmission. Your frequency selective fading channel will become flat fading channel by this means. Next, we go ahead. We are going to utilize the help of DSP to generate the OFDM signal. We have a baseband signal of OFDM being represented like this. We have already seen the equation that is used for generation of OFDM signal, the block diagram. From the block diagram, from the last we go ahead, right? We are utilizing summation, right? This is your block diagram, this summation. This is your summation. What all you are summing up? Summing up from frequency 1 to frequency 8. So this what is, if you name the first frequency as 0, then this will be 0 and this will be n minus 1. So that's what is written here. Summation m equal to 0 to n minus 1. That stands for number of parallel lines that you have created and so many, that many number of subcarriers you are going to utilize. So m equal to 0 to n minus 1, the number of subcarriers. We are going to name the first subcarrier as 1, then it will be m equal to 1 to n. Xm is the data that has been transmitted over that line into e power j. The cos of 2 pi fct is written in exponential form here as e power j 2 pi f into t. The fm is replaced as integer multiples, right? So m times ts, m times 1 by ts into t. E power j 2 pi fm into t, the fm is replaced as m by ts times t. So you have m by ts time being the central frequency of the nth subchannel. This is your normal signal equation for the OFDM. What is symbol equation for the OFDM? This is the normal symbol equation for the OFDM. Now, we want to express orthogonality. How we can express orthogonality here? We can easily express orthogonality. This is a continuous time version of the signal. So 1 by t integral 0 to t e power j 2 pi m by ts into t into e power minus j 2 pi L by ts into t will become a delta function. If it is a discrete time version, we'll be calling it as 1. If it is a continuous time version, we'll be using del function to represent orthogonality, right? So this is orthogonal. This is the expression to express the orthogonality in OFDM theory. So continuous time orthogonal time signals, we usually write in DSP is something called as Twiddle factor or psi k of t. Psi k of t. This is your psi k of t. K is integers which can take values from as -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, etc. T is over one symbol duration, its value is between 0 to ts. So psi k of t will be nothing but e power j 2 pi by ts. There we used m, here we are using k here, that's it. Since the variable changed as k, here we are using k into t, right? Its orthogonality, you can easily write it as integral 0 to t psi n of t into psi star of m of t dt should be equal to 0. If n is not equal to m, it will be equal to value of ts if n is equal to n. This is how the orthogonality is being expressed. This is how the orthogonality is being expressed in continuous time domain. we can express the same orthogonality in discrete time domain. Discrete time domain, we'll be writing the t here as n, small n, right? The t here is be replaced as small n, psi k of n. So psi k of n is nothing but e power j 2 pi. There we are used symbol t. That symbol t is being discretized capital N times in discrete version of the signal. Continuous time will be using the symbol duration ts. Discrete time, the symbol duration ts will be discretized n times. So that's why it is ts is replaced as n into t here. And small t will be replaced as small n into t. So when t and t is being cancelled, you get this expression e power j 2 pi by n into kn. 2 pi by capital N into kn. So now you understood what is the relation. The orthogonality is being expressed in discrete time as wherever you have your integral is replaced as summation here. Summation n equal to 0 to n minus 1. Psi n of n into psi star of m of n will be equal to 0 only when n is equal to m, not equal to m. When n is not equal to m, you get your value as capital M. Okay. Orthogonal means when there is a different frequency, its value should become 0. When both are equal, its value should be equal to n. So this is the orthogonality expression. So in discrete time version, you need to note certain things like psi k of n, it cyclically repeats after k symbols, after capital N symbols, right? One ts, 2 ts, 3 ts, like that, it's going to repeat itself. So once it's going to repeat, so psi n plus k value will be equal to psi k of n itself. Psi of minus k will be equal to psi of n minus k value. These values will be, these notations will be utilized while doing your calculations in terms of discrete time signal processing. So we have seen orthogonality in time domain, we have seen orthogonality in discrete time domain. Now these orthogonality, based on using these orthogonality function, we are redrawing the OFDM modulator. We are taking the symbol generators as decays. Then symbol generators are converted to parallel form. These parallel form, every data has been multiplied by psi k of t's, which is represented as h0 of t, h1 of t, h2 of t, etc. And then summing it up, you get your s of t. This is your OFDM modulator. Now these psi k of t's can easily be generated using IDFTs, right? We'll come back to the demodulator after. The psi k of t is here, right? This is your psi k of t. From where do we get the psi k of t? You can easily get by using the discrete time equivalent functions. The IDFT, inverse discrete time signal, is written as k equal to 0 to n minus 1 dk e power j 2 pi k n by n. This is your IDFT equivalent. The block modulator there is nothing but an IDFT. This IDFT can be easily performed using IFFTs, inverse Fourier, fast Fourier transforms. It will be having less number of complex multiplications compared to IDFTs. So, in the place of block modulator, what we are going to have is only FFT. Actually, IFFT. FFT and IFFT can be done by the same block itself. So, now you would have, this is the change what we are going to do. All these discussions are based on changing the cos of 2 pi omega t to IFFT now. So you understood? You take as data bits, convert them to parallel, then use IFFT, which will be useful to place the subcarriers in orthogonal to each other. Once your IFFT is being done, you furthermore operate on over that signal before transmission. The operations what you further on operate is you are going to add cyclic prefix to that, you're going to do windowing to that, and then upconvert it to the required carrier frequency which can be transmitted over the wireless channel, then amplify the power signal and then transmit using your wireless transmitter. So once you talk about OFDM modulation, you will be converting the received bits into serial to parallel, doing your IFFT, adding your cyclic prefix, doing the windowing function, and then you're going to view your output. This is what you will be doing in your LabVIEW part. Is it okay? So now you have understood what is OFDM transmit approach. We will not be concentrating of what is FC, what is power amplifiers, whether the signal has been amplified or not, whether it's been really transmitted, because everything is in a simulation mode. Once you do this pulse shaping, and you're going to just transmit over the wireless channel and receive the signal and reconstruct it and see the output. This is the OFDM receiver part. You'll get your signal. This is for real-time receiver where you need to do adaptive gain controlling concept and all. But in simulation, we need not require this. Similarly, this set of operation is also available as a timing offset compensator, as this part is for frequency offset compensator. This is frequency offset compensator, timing offset compensator. After compensating for all these changes in your signal because of the wireless channel, you simply receive the signal, do the FFT part, convert the parallel to serial, detect the signal, and therefore you'll get back your OFDM symbols. This is your simple OFDM receiver. So furthermore processing, I just told, we are going to add cyclic extensions. Why? Explanation for that. You are having your signal X of t and your wireless channel H of t, you get an output Y of t. Right? So we found that the X of t is going to be multi-carrier modulated. For that, the signal will be converted to serial to parallel, then IFFT block will be applied, and then you are going to multiply with the subcarrier. Each stream will be multiplied by subcarrier to get a multi-carrier signal. This is one multi-carrier signal. Once this multi-carrier signal is being transmitted over the channel once again, you get a symbol, OFDM symbol will be distorted like this, right? This is also due to the dispersive nature of the channel. The symbol is not ending at this point, it is getting extended. This is also due to the dispersive nature of the signal. Previously, we talked in terms of bits. Now we are talking in terms of symbol, OFDM symbol. Because of this, when you are going to transmit many OFDM symbols like this, once again you have adjacent symbol interference, right? This is the portion of adjacent symbol interference. This is also because of the wireless channel characteristics. So what to do now? Previously, you are trying to convert it into parallel to serial and then transmit it. Now, with the multi-carrier modulation also, you have furthermore adjacent symbol interferences. So to overcome the adjacent symbol interference, the method suggested is use of guard bands. Use of guard band. That is, after first symbol is transmitted, leave certain interval of time and then transmit the second symbol, such a way that there is adjacent symbol interference is being avoided. But use of guard bands had one negative point. What is the negative point is the orthogonality between the subcarriers got lost. So in the guard time, right, due to subcarriers are of varying frequencies, each frequency signal is going to travel at different speed. Subcarrier 1 will be the slower most. Nth subcarrier will be the very highest, will be moving at a very high speed. So as a result, what had happened, within one OFDM symbol, this is your one OFDM symbol, right? Within this OFDM symbol, there is no signal, because in order to give some gap between one symbol and the next symbol, that is your guard time, the signal is not there. Therefore, the concept of maintaining integer multiples of cycles within one OFDM time interval has been destroyed. To overcome this effect, right, the part of the signal that is going into the next guard band time should be copy pasted here in order that the integer multiples of cycles are still maintained. Right? This part should be copy pasted back in such a way that subcarrier 1 is orthogonal to subcarrier 2. This way of copy pasting your initial part of the signal to the back is called as adding cyclic prefix. Adding cyclic prefix. So after adding the cyclic prefix, this is how the OFDM will look like. OFDM signal will look like. Within one integer, within the OFDM signal interval, the subcarriers will be maintained orthogonal. Because of the maintenance of orthogonality, bit error rates are becoming less. Even if you are going to have multiple versions, multi-path versions of the subcarriers, still the orthogonality is maintained. So that's what has been explained out of this slide. So you have a direct ray and a multipath reflected ray. Even if you have multipath reflected rays, the orthogonality is not being disturbed. So that's what they are claiming by using cyclic prefix. So definitely you need cyclic prefix. The cyclic prefix will overcome the adjacent symbol interferences and maintain the orthogonality between the subcarriers in OFDM. Next, the concept of windowing has been introduced because channel is a low pass filter channel. It is not a channel of transmitting all type of frequencies. Therefore, you need to filter the signal and transmit within the bandwidth of the wireless channel. So doing that method, that is called as windowing. That is called as windowing. Right? You won't have any filter which is having sharp cutoff. There will be always some slew rates that is being accommodated in order that the signal will get through into the channel without any problem. So the windowing concept, what you are going to apply here is, we can't just have an OFDM signal exactly starting at one time from this point to this point, from ending at this point to this point, right? So if it is exactly vertical time slot means it needs infinite bandwidth to deliver this. So none of the channels are of infinite bandwidth. So bandwidth of the channel is always limited. Can transfer only a range of frequencies. So to accommodate that, the signals are filtered. So that process is called as windowing here. Filtering in time domain is called as windowing. The expressions whatever have been written here is with respect to raised cosine windowing function. You can see that this rising part from here to here is between 0 to the t taking up values between 0 to beta ts. 0 to beta ts. For this portion, the value of the signal will be like this: 0.5 plus 0.5 cos of pi plus 4 pi divided by beta ts. This is your rising part of the signal. Similarly, for the falling part, from ts to 1 plus beta ts. This is ts2, this is 1 plus beta ts. For this portion, right, it is going to follow a cosine function, which is 0.5 plus 0.5 into cos of t minus ts pi divided by beta ts. For the values between this point to this point, that is from beta ts value to ts value. Beta ts value to ts value. The window is going to be value is going to be equal to 1. So once you do this windowing function and transmit, so you won't have the distortions in the received signal. Distortions in the received signal has been overcome by means of the principle of windowing. You can change the windows like Hamming window, Hanning window, all those windowing functions, and see in your lab. See at your lab view how the signal distortion changes and how your bit error rates are improved. So that's the details about your OFDM, theory part behind the OFDM. So naturally you take up your input bits, QAM map is you can do any mapping, like a QPSK mapping, BPSK mapping, any mapping you can do it. And then if you want pilots, which will be received at your receiver end for channel estimation, that can be done. Then the major part is serial to parallel conversion, FFT, and parallel to serial conversion, adding the cyclic prefix and windowing function, transmitting over the wireless channel. This part is what we are going to study in MATLAB. Similarly, at the receiver end, you receive the signal, right? Convert it to digital version, do frequency offset and timing offset corrections, remove the cyclic prefix, then parallel to serial convert, do FFT, get your parallel to serial convert, receive this parallel to serial convert, then do the channel corrections, form DMAP, deinterleave, decode, and you get your output. So this is what your normal OFDM transmitter is. Just next part, we go ahead with how to implement this in OFDM. OFDM. As an experiment, we have to give what we are going to do here. We are going to create an orthogonal frequency division multiplexed and demultiplexed output using LabVIEW software and verify the results. This is the main aim of my experiment. What are all the apparatus required? Generally, inside your LabVIEW, you may require signal generators, serial to parallel converters. All these are written in terms of block diagram version. IFFTs, modulators, parallel to serial converters, cyclic prefix encoders, demodulators, array indicators, cyclic prefix decoders, and certain wires. These are all the normal apparatus required. But once you go into, you need to ask the students to write some theory about whatever they have learned with respect to OFDM. Right. OFDM is a method of encoding digital data on multi-carrier frequencies. OFDM have developed into a popular scheme for wideband digital communication used in applications such as digital television, audio broadcasting, DSL internet access, wireless networks, power line networks, 4G mobile communication, etc. OFDM is frequency division multiplexing scheme used as a digital multi-carrier modulation method. Numerous closely spaced orthogonal subcarrier signals with overlapping spectra are emitted to carry data. Demodulation is based on fast Fourier transform algorithms. The main advantages of OFDM over single carrier scheme is its ability to cope with severe channel conditions. For example, attenuation of high frequencies in long copper wires, narrowband interferences, and frequency selective fading due to multipaths. So without complex equalization filters. Channel equalization is simplified because OFDM may be viewed as using many slowly modulated narrowband signals rather than one rapidly modulated wideband signals. The low symbol rate makes the use of broad intervals between the symbols affordable, making it possible to eliminate inter-symbol interferences and use echoes and time spreading to achieve diversity gain and signal to noise ratio improvements. So whatever, we should ask the students to write about what is the theory behind the OFDM, then the procedure in LabVIEW. First, you need to create the sub-VIs, virtual instruments. VI stands for virtual instruments here. What are all sub-VIs you are required to create for OFDM process? Create the sub-VIs, store them in the folder. Then connect them according to the circuit diagrams, and their respective indicators are connected with them. Give the respective data rate and cyclic prefix required for the experiment. In the output block, you need to create a sampling input indicator box for 8 rows, and the respective inputs are given. Then create an array indicator box of 8 rows. Corresponding output is obtained in this box. Thus, the corresponding output are obtained from the block diagram. So this you need to draw the block diagram at your block diagram page. So this is a block diagram page. This is what the block diagram page will have. You are going to take your input bits and your training symbols. Inside this, you are going to use many VIs, sub-VIs like bit to word converter. You can see B to W here. This is one sub-VI which will do bit to word conversion. Then another sub-VI which will do word to symbol conversion. this next sub VI, which is going to convert the symbol to fast Fourier transform. This is what actually more important in OFD. This sub VI gets the symbols and gives orthogonal subcarriers to it. And the next is for cyclic prefix. This part is for your cyclic prefix. After adding cyclic prefix, and this part, this sub VI is for windowing. This sub VI is for windowing. And finally, you can see the output here. Finally, we can see the output here. So for these sub VIs, you need all these inputs. Like what is the training symbol, number of subcarriers, bit to symbol, bits to symbol converters, word to symbol mapper, digital to analog rate, D to A rate, carrier symbols, fundamental frequency, percentage of cyclic prefix that you want to add, then the what type of window, Hamming window, that window. That these are all the input or the transmission parameters that you need to specify. So this is what you are going to draw in the block diagram. Now you just go inside and see what each sub VI is doing for us. Right? This is the sub VI of IFFT block. Sub VI of IFFT block. The sub VI of IFFT block, the main component here is this one. The main component here is this one. You can see F inverse of X. This F inverse of X is what actually maps whatever you get in the frequency domain to a time domain output. This is what is going to map your frequency domain to a time domain output, right? You should ensure that it is a 1D complex, one-dimensional, and it's a complex random variable, right? Once you fix up that, it's enough for your, this is what actually doing IFFT part. The rest of all is some maths which will be involved to satisfy the conversions possible, right? So for that, we just see here what is happening. The next set is, you are taking up your carrier symbols and then number of subcarriers and passing it through a decision block, whether it is true or false. This true or false block will be used to generate the time domain output from the frequency domain spectra of it. So first you need to compare whether the number of subcarriers are even or odd. If the numbers of subcarriers, so in normal frequency domain, right? Normal frequency domain, you will be having a signal like this, right? This is your frequency spectra. In the frequency spectra, you will be looking into number of subcarriers. So what is exactly at the center is some zeroth subcarrier, right? This part for your positive part and this part for your negative part. This part positive part and this part for your negative part. Why we are checking whether it is divisible by 2? Once we check if it is divisible by 2, we see the math operator here, divisible by 2. If it is divisible by 2, if it is equal to divisible by 2, you need not introduce a center carrier. You need to introduce a center carrier for the zeroth value. If it is not divisible by 2, means you can easily split equally over the positive frequencies and negative frequencies and left over one single frequency for your center one. This can be created as an odd number of frequencies inside the spectrum. If the number of frequencies are even, you need to introduce one more frequency. That frequency is your carrier symbol. That frequency is your carrier symbol. That's what is being introduced. That's what this block does. If you are going to check whether it is divisible by 2 is false, then false means you are directly using your data, taking up and passing it to the output. If not, if it is true, that means the number of subcarriers are even. Then you need to take your carrier symbol also. Into the carrier symbol, you need to add on the data. First data into your carrier symbol. So that portion is what this block does. Then you have your parallel symbol in. Take up your data. Parallel symbol in. You can see here your input is symbols, they are not bits. So this is being the output of another VI which will take symbols. It will take symbols. So bit to word conversion and word to symbol conversion has already been created by other VIs, and the output of that is being taken here as parallel symbol in. So this parallel symbol in is being fed into this array. This will split up into two parts. This is a split array which will, as you receive the symbols into, it will split up into two arrays that is required and that is not. Whatever is being split up will split up into two, and data will be added on into the subcarrier and placed here. Data will be added on to subcarrier and placed here, and if it is even number of subcarriers, the data will be moved from this point to this point. In addition to that, you may have to add the zeros. This is for zero padding conditions, right? This zero padding, how many number of zeros you are going to pad in depends upon the fundamental frequency and the data rate that we are going to specify. That's it. So you have to some number of subcarriers. To the subcarriers, you are going to take up the data added over the subcarriers, right? That's clear. That's what is being done here. That's what is being done here. And instead of to satisfy the data rate and the bandwidth, you need to introduce zeros. This is called zero padding. So that portion is done by this portion, this part of the IFFT block. Now, please tell me. Hello. So, how many number of zeros you are going to append? That is being decided by this part of the block. Being taken by this part of the block. So that depends upon the data rate and the fundamental frequency. So if the data rate and fundamental frequencies is being, you just divide by 2 and see, and then subtract it, right? Then introduce zeros. So wherever over the spectrum, some subcarriers will carry data, some subcarriers will carry zeros. Some subcarriers will carry zeros. So that's what. So through this you are getting the subcarriers. Through this line you are getting the data. Through this line you are getting the zeros. And then this is a concatenation array. This is a concatenation array of arranging it. Once you arrange the data with subcarriers, right? And then zeros over certain subcarriers. And finally, wherever you have your data, that will be inverse Fourier transform, and that will be seen as a time domain output in this scope. Is it okay? So where you need to introduce these zeros is determined by this time interval. Wait for so many number of milliseconds and then pump in 0 into it. So if you have a data subcarrier, you have to wait for the next subcarrier and then pump in 0 into that subcarrier. So that's what this wait loop is being utilized. So from here, you just pick up time domain output as well as DC offsets. How much amount of DC is being introduced, that offset is being also calculated and given. This DC offset will be utilized at the receiver end to cancel off this DC offset and view your signals. This is the main VI. The main VI here is how you are going to prepare your IFFT block. The next sub VI is about getting your parallel symbol output. That is this part. How do you get your parallel symbol in here? This part is nothing but the output of this VI. The output of this VI, you can see here, this is a parallel symbol out. So you're going to take up a for loop for this. This for loop is going to run for I equal to 1 to n, where n is the number of subcarriers. Depending upon number of subcarriers, this for loop is going to run. What you are going to do here is, you're going to pick up a word and map it to the symbol. Pick up a word and map it to the symbol. Word to symbol mapper of the output is being taken into here, right? Word to symbol mapper of the output is taken up here, and parallel word inputs. These are your parallel word inputs. So what this will do is, it will take up a word and give a symbol as an output. Word to symbol output. Word to symbol output, which is converted to parallel. Which is converted to parallel from each subcarrier for I equal to 1 to n. Right? Every subcarrier will give each output. So for first subcarrier, you will pick up one word, and that word will be mapped onto the symbol, and that mapping is done here. That word has been mapped onto a symbol, and that mapping is done here. And that symbol is going to given us output. So that's why it is called as parallel symbol outputs. So output will be from n subcarriers, n symbols will be given as output. N symbols will be given as output. So for example, there is one bit to word converter, which is, I have not taken up the flow diagram for that. Bit to word converter, I just tell you what does it do. Bit to word, what it has to do is, depending upon what type of modulation, the number of symbols or number of bits will vary. That's your bit to word converter work. So if you bits are taken as serially in, like this, taken as serially in. If you are going to do QPSK modulation, then the bit to word converter should give 2 bits as output. Right? This is your bit to word converter, B to W. B to W should give 2 words like this. Right? This is what your B to W will do. It takes up input like this and converts it into 2 sets of words. If it is a QAM modulation, 16 QAM modulation, it should give 4 bits as output. It should give 4 bits as output. This is what your bit to word converter does, where you're going to have just input stream like this and an array, concatenation array, and number of bits in the word will be given as input here, 2 bits per word or 3 bits per word will be given as input based on the type of modulations. Then 2 bits per word means it's a QPSK modulation. 3 bit per word is 8 PSK modulation. Like that, you get an output from that. From the bit to word output, the bit to word output will be given as a symbol mapper. Then you have to map this words to symbols. You have to map these words to symbols. Symbols are nothing but complex signals. Symbols are nothing but complex signals. Once you convert bit to word, next you need to map it to the symbols. Symbols are nothing but complex signals which are allowed constellation points for the data transmission. For example, if it is QPSK and you are going to use these are the allowed constellation points. The allowed constellation points, and you can see this is 0 and this is 1. This value is 1, And I can name the symbols S0, this as S1, this as S2, this as S3, etc. Now, what is your symbol S0? Symbol S0 will be equal to 1 plus 1j. Is that okay? What is S1? S1 will be this point, minus 1 plus 1j. Symbol S2 will be this point, minus 1 minus 1j. Minus 1 minus 1j. Symbol S3 will be plus 1 minus 1j. So okay, this is the complex mapping. This is the complex mapping. You give word as input to this. You give word as input to this. So first subcarrier, if the word is 0, 1, the word is 0, 1. This will give an output as, we need to assign, right? We need to assign S0 as symbol 0, 0, and this as 0, 1, and this as 1, 0, and this as 1, 1 has been assigned like this. Then in your first subcarrier, if your data is 0, 1, then symbol S1 should be given as output. That is, the output for the subcarrier should be minus 1 plus j. Minus 1 plus j. The second subcarrier, if your data is 0, 0, if your data is 0, 0, then S0 should be the output. That is 1 plus 1j. So that's what this block does. So it will take into each subcarriers, see the bits inside it, the subcarrier, see the bits inside it. For the bit, what is the symbol? That symbol will be given as output. For the bit, whatever is the symbol, that symbol will be given as output. These symbols are going inside your IF50 block. They will be placed on the subcarriers. If they are, at whatever number they need to be placed, they'll be placed at the subcarriers. If you need to place the first symbol over your first carrier symbol, if the number of subcarriers is odd or even, right? If it is even, you need to place your first symbol on the first carrier symbol. For that, this true or false block will be useful for you. If it is odd, this carrier signal will not be utilized. Directly, you take up the first subcarrier, place your first data bit over there. Second subcarrier, place the data bit over there. Like that, all the positive subcarriers you place it. And from the 0 to the subcarriers, in between you need to introduce zeros to satisfy the bandwidth of the signal. So you compute what is the fundamental frequency and what is the data rate. Based on the fundamental frequency and data rate, you identify the amount of data you need to pump in. So wherever you don't have parallel symbols, you have to introduce zeros. So that portion is being done by this part. So you get your frequency domain values. Those frequency domain values will be pumped into the F inverse of X. This F inverse of X gets the complex values, find the time domain version of it, and gives the output for us. So therefore, whatever is your input signal, for every subcarrier, you get your time domain output of the signal, which you can view it using your scope here. Next, we need to add cyclic prefix to the block. Cyclic prefix, I already told what is the need for cyclic prefix. Here we are going to see, this LabVIEW gives an advantage of adding amount of percentage of the signals need to be added as cyclic prefix. Whether 10% of it, 20% of it, 30% of it, 50% of it, like that you can add any amount of signal as a cyclic prefix to it. So this operation is very simple. You take your original signal. The original signal is taken up, and this is your splitter. It splits the original signal. Right. So you specify the amount of cyclic prefix you want. That is either 10%, 20%, or 30%, like that. The amount of cyclic prefix is taken up, and that amount is being subtracted from 1 to know how much amount of original signal should be passed in. Right? How much amount of original signal should be passed in. So this is a multiplier. So this 1 minus the percentage of cyclic prefix. If it is 20%, this will be 0.8. So 0.8 amount of original signal will be passed in, and for remaining 20%, the original signal will be repeated. Right? Original signal will be repeated. So original signal will be splitted up as 0.8 and 0.2 separately. The original signal is passed here, and the remaining 20% will come from here, and therefore they'll be concatenated here. Right? After your original signal is completed, your 20% will be appended to it, and therefore you can see your cyclic prefix the signal. It is very easy to view this. You can just change the knob from 10% to 20%, 20% to 30%, and you can easily see the waveforms of how the cyclic prefix affects your transmitted signal. This about your receiver. Yeah?
Ma'am?
Yeah?
Last 10 minutes for this session, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. I'll just show the output waveforms and then complete.
Okay, ma'am.
This about the receiver blocks, what will be helpful for us to decode the signal back. The most important part is your FFT to symbol conversion. FFT to symbol converter here, right? This is your most important block here. These are decision blocks. Whether it is true, you need to use your frequency offset. If there is a frequency offset, you need to do frequency synchronization. There is no frequency offset, you can directly transmit your input signal to the FFT block. If there is, you need to use an equalizer, then your decision. Whether there is equalization required or not, that you just find out. If it is required, then equalize the values. So what is the amount of equalization you need to do is, you need to inverse the channel. For that part, there is a separate next level of slides are available to explain how equalization can be done. Zero forcing equalizer is also been in the slide, but if time permits, I will present equalization also. So for these two blocks, you will be in need of some transmitter properties like what is the number of subcarriers, how many number of word to symbol mapping, how many bits per symbols these are being utilized. And for equalization, you need number of channel taps. This will be used to overcome the delay spread nature of the channel. So number of channel taps also need to be mentioned here to do the equalization. So once your equalization is over, then you do your symbol to word converter, word to bit converter, and you can see this is a simple receiver diagram for the OFDM signal. So FFT block explanation. This is the output what you get in your LabVIEW. This is the input bits. So you would have set, these are the transmitter property window where you are going to set your numbers. What is the amount of cyclic prefix you want, percentage of cyclic prefix. Number of training bits is 0. Bits per symbol is 2 bits per symbol. Carrier symbol is at 0.0 I. Fundamental frequency is 1. Data rate is 1000. You can use any type of rectangle. This rectangular window, Hamming window, Hanning window, anything you can specify here. Number of subcarriers is 8. So that you can see 8 outputs here. For the 8 outputs, would have given the inputs as 1 0 0 1 1 0 1 1. Finally, the output is also at the receiver end. You will get the same 1 0 0 1 1 0 1 1. So thus, the orthogonal frequency division multiplexed and demultiplexed output is created and verified using LabVIEW software. So even during pandemics, you can easily study and ask the students to write the code in LabVIEW and see the outputs, which will give a very clear explanations for them in terms of as if doing it using real oscillators, you can get your output. But you can see there's always a difference between simulating same OFDM in MATLAB and simulating OFDM in LabVIEW. LabVIEW gives hardware perspective of viewing the same things. MATLAB gives viewing the same thing in terms of computer knowledge, like coding. That way you'll be looking at, well, the for loop, the if loop, the while loop, all those things will be used, functions will be used, all those things will be used while programming same OFDM in MATLAB. But once you're going to code using LabVIEW, you will be having the experience of utilizing the hardware elements, hardware line like a demultiplexer, multiplexer, that's a bit to word converter, word to bit converter, the parallel to serial converter, serial to parallel converters, etc. Right? The FFT, fast Fourier transform F inverse of X, is nothing but a table lookup. So this gives a different way of, the tools here are different, which will be more or less exactly mapping to the real-time available tools, available discrete components. So that's the difference between LabVIEW and MATLAB. So I think I have already taken up much amount of your time. Slowly I want to stop you. Do you have any doubts you can ask, which will clarify now? The presentation is for zero forcing as well as for automotive coding is available in my PPTs. You can just go through after your regular class of teaching. What is your LabVIEW is over. You can easily understand these things, and then you can do it on by your hand. Okay. Any doubts?
Dear participants, if you have any doubts, you can get clarified. Anyone with any doubts in the session conducted so far?
So if there is no doubt, you can ask me through my mail. I will pass on my mail ID also for you. Okay, then. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for all the participants.
Very good presentation, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Harish, sir.
Thank you for being part of this STTP, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you all. I take leave. You can mail me if you have any doubts. Thank you.